Hey guys, this is Jonathan McCormack. I'm an attachment specialist in New York. You can find me at attachmenthealinghelp.com. And here I want to talk about what exactly is secure attachment, but how do you get it? People are often in therapy or coaching. What is going on? What is supposed to be going on? And also lay out the steps. I also give a meditation, kind of a neat one on integrating your child self with your full self and your future self. That's a big part of attachment, knowing who you are, where you came from, where you're going, what you're about. So essentially, um, if you want to get securely attached, the first thing is you have to be intentional about it. It won't just happen. It never does. You actually have to do things. Ideally, you want to be able to visualize where you want to be, a scene. So oftentimes in the beginning, I do ideal parent figure protocol and parts work and whatnot, but I'll try and get a little intention. I'll just be like, well, if you woke up tomorrow, scared of everything, you got everything you ever wanted out of this. What would you notice about yourself? They'll start talking about feelings. Well, I'd be confident. I'd be this. I'd be that. No, no, no. The unconscious needs a specific picture. What would you notice? What other people notice? But well, you'd be standing up, you'd be smiling a lot more. You'd be like, hey. Then you notice you get out of bed right away. Boy, you'd be using the phone a lot to reach out. Perhaps you'd notice yourself going to more places, perhaps exercise. Actual pictures for the unconscious. Two, having an attachment figure. I know that's the problem, right? But it is important to have something that can act as your attachment figure. This can be a therapist, it can be a best friend, a priest, a family member, anything, but something. It, healing only takes place within a relationship, you know. Um, and then the third thing is to make interpersonal changes. In other words, changes how you relate to other people. Primarily, it's going to be your family. That's family of origin work. That's part of it. That's about making peace with their past. So an ideal parent figure protocol, we're using imaginary parents to do scenes where we get those developmental needs met, those needs being seen, supported, loved. With parts work too, is we're going back to those wounded child parts. Oh, that wounded child part is 8 years old and experiencing getting yelled at by mom while we witness it, let it unburden, give it another emotional that being seen and known and loved. And that wound should be decharged. You know, the second part of making interpersonal changes is social. It's reaching out. It's taking small risks. That's even if you've been married for 20 years, taking those extra small risks, those reaching out. So those are the two things about making interpersonal changes. And then the two things about the fourth piece of secure attachment is intrapsychic changes, changes within. That's going to be two things: redefining your self-worth. Um, I tell this story sometimes about a famous attachment experiment when they had little girls lined up, and they told little girls, little boys are going to ask you to dance. You say no. And they tell little boys, go ask them to dance. So the first little boy comes in, asks the first little girl, do you want to dance? She says no. He goes, okay. Goes the second, no. Okay. Third, okay. Whatever. The second little boy comes in, asks, do you want to dance? And she says no. Oh, he just crumbles, starts crying, goes off in the corner. Wow. Wow. What happened? You know, if I asked you, why is he crying? I bet you most people say, because that little girl just broke his heart. That little girl just said no. That's not why he's crying at all, though. Uh, what meaning did he put to that? Clearly, the meaning the first kid put to the what was happening was very different. That first kid was probably like, okay, she said no, that means she doesn't want to dance with me. That's okay. We're not compatible. I don't know, whatever. The second boy thought, oh, she doesn't want to dance with me. That means I am worthless, something like that. So you're going to redefine self-worth, and that's going to come from inside, yourself. You have to heal those wounded child parts that think they're worth, because naturally when you're that young, you're thinking like, whatever happened, if a parent yells at you, nothing to do with the parent, they're perfect. That's your fault because you were bad or wrong or not good enough, you know? So you have to change those messages oftentimes by using imageal reenactments to redo them. You can do that, anyone can. And the second part, and lastly, is to change what's going on inside is, I hate to say this, but this they say going from victim status to resilient status. And I have to say, this sounds very insulting to me because people have been through such hard times. It's like, oh, get rid of the victim. Well, yeah, in 10 years of that being touched as a kid, I think I am a victim. Yes, that what else? But of course, you're not 10 anymore, or 8 or 7. Even so, people don't want to let this go for good reasons, by the way, a bunch of good reasons. But one that I see is people think, no, no, no. If I move on, if I'm okay, if I'm like, I'm okay with all that means what they did was okay. And then it's like, hell no, because it wasn't okay. And the trick is to be able to move on despite what happening not being okay. And just ask, where do you want to witness this not being okay? From a place where you're still shaking from it or a place where you've gone above it. Either way, you're going to witness to it. It's not about forgetting, you know. Um, and sometimes a lot of literature will put that as a shift from stubbornness to resolve. Even in the intention, let's make an intention. People are just so stubborn. And is it because they're just mule-headed? It could be, but probably is because this being stubborn saved their life from, this being like, I'm not going to reach out for love. Why? Because they did it so many times as a kid and it got met with pain or indifference. So the literature, when it says these people are being very stubborn and resistant, it's like, I don't think so. I think they're being smart, And yes, it's going to take a bit of time, but you'll see, I mean, that's just part of it. So people go through, when I ask them the intentions, that they're very much about, this is not who I want to be, you know, that's how they think. So I say, how do you want to be? Do you want to, you're depressed? Well, I'm not depressed, not this, not insecure, not anxious. And all their unconscious here is anxious, 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 insecure. And they're focused on the past, but I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. And they're just thinking about that all the time. This is because the unconscious doesn't understand negations. Do not think of a pink elephant. There's no such thing as a not pink elephant. Give it a message, give it a feeling. The unconscious will latch onto it. So it really is relinquishing this mentality to go into more resilient mindset. That also has aspects of making sense of the past. This is classic in attachment theory. You ask people about their childhoods, and it's all over. Either avoidant, they just don't remember, or barely, or have no thoughts on it. They're like, yeah, my father, he just put me in a dress and shoved me outside and made me strip for neighbors. But yeah, he made sure there's food on the table, yeah, every day. So he's a good father. Yeah, it doesn't work. Or anxious people, you ask about their past, and they start telling you, and all of a sudden they're reliving it, and they're like, "Oh, my father," and they're getting upset. You see, they're breathing. Oh, well, that's not resolved. So that's about making sense. That's metabolizing these experiences. So a lot of times, yeah, I'll spend a whole session just asking, like, uh, "Oh, your boss said that to you, your wife said that to you. What do you think was going through their head?" And we're not used to, depending if you're avoiding, you're really not used to thinking that. Like, what's going on, Like, if you're anxious, you are used to think about that, and you probably have 10 theories. We're like, that's no, do you think that's likely? People, gee, we're just talking. That there's actually mentalization, getting the mind used to doing that, to getting attuned to someone else's thoughts. And what you're really doing actually is getting tuned to the fact that you have very limited knowledge. And you're just filling in things, usually from your past, that might have nothing to do with the situation. Um, so, you make peace with the past, you eventually stop seeking your parents' approval. You start revising and understanding the way your family was. And you start revisiting your parents, those caregivers through a new perspective. And you do, if you do the ideal parent figure protocol, I come with clients all the time. And, they'll be like, oh, dad hated me. And sometimes, yeah, he did. Sometimes, no, though. They're like, I used to tell myself that. But now that I look at it, we revisit some scenes. And even imagely, you can talk to your real father and like, oh, yeah, he was going through a divorce. He was a drunk, and this is happening, and that was happening. And yeah, I guess he didn't hate me. I guess that's not what was going on. But that's such a reality to that 8-year-old. Like, no, dad he hates me. He's getting angry. What else could it mean? So giving an adult perspective. 5, deliberate changes of thought and behavior. You know, okay. I try to explain what insecure attachment is to people when they ask me what I do for a living. I don't know. I don't have a great, they don't feel what it's like, like, no, you just like someone, boom, you're with them, and there's a connection, not all the time. I wish it was, I wish were it so, you know. So there's a poem I like to use. I'm a big believer in art and poetry. Um, Actually, I have a graph now that I think of it. Let me see if I can find that, the graph of all the things I just talked about, because it's actually handicrafted. I might, uh, okay, let me share my screen. Yeah, you can see that. Boom. I hope you can see that. Yeah, here it is. This is about earned security. Um, these are the meta conditions: being intentional. You have to be intentional. What does that mean? Well, overcoming setbacks and barriers to growth. There's going to be setbacks and barriers, but you're going to be intentional. It's going to happen. You're like, oh, of course, it's surrogate attached figure. It could be anyone, therapist, a priest, whoever. These are the these are things you need to start. This is the environment you need to grow. And the 2 things I talked about: making interpersonal changes, peace with the past, revising caregivers. These are family of origin work. And you can do that through old talk therapy. I use experiences, as I think that's much more somatically and bodily grounded. Yeah, and small risks. And that could even be with your therapist. People think a good therapist is one who never makes a mistake and never oversteps his boundaries. Within reason, no, not for attachment people. For attachment people, you actually want someone who's very much in the moment, even makes jokes if it's appropriate, please. But is willing to have that life energy where he might just say something that is a little off, and but he takes that risk. He or she takes that risk because there will be a rupture, not to make the rupture, but he's like willing to bend those boundaries to get more and more environment and space in there. And a lot of times I'll say blah blah blah, and they're like, "That is 100% wrong." That is great. So many people don't want to correct me. They don't want to say, "Yeah, the last 2 sessions, I think you got wasted my time." Because I'm not talking about nothing. Oof, if that could bring that up to me, this is a great sign of secure data. Like, ooh, I'm feeling pretty safe here in this relationship. And finally, the intrapsychic changes. And these are redefining identity and worth, who you are. Well, I'm the guy who always has to please mom, always has to make sure she's okay. No, that's the kid you were, And we can work on that. And relinquishing the victim mentality. And again, I really hate that phrase, but that's what it is. Since I have it on my computer, I'm just going to show Chagall. But why not? Look at that Chagall. Unbelievable. That's what love feels like. Secure love. I'm always saying secure love. It's actually very playful. And people are surprised by that, but absolutely not. Look at Chagall. He married his gal um, pretty young, and they were in love forever. Always in love. And she was so old fashioned. She used to bring him, like he'd be in the painting studio, and then boom, she'd come with her bright eyes, and she had a lovely shape, beautiful gal, and bring him like milk and toast and butter and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. These are signs of affection. I mean, look at this. Look, he's floating off, and she's floating off with him, just this dreamy Chagall. What a mark. Look at this one. It's the wedding. He's with the rooster. Oh, and angels. Yeah, he's Jewish. Yeah, all this stuff. But you go, good Lord, just look at the play, look at the colors. I mean, Kaninsky wishes he could do that. Jesus. All righty, that's your goal. Anyway, I'll stop sharing my screen. Um, so that chart, though, I'll try and throw on my website and maybe below if I'm able to. It's a pretty good chart. You can just look at yourself. Um, uh, Insecure attachment. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Robert Desnos, he's a poet I really dig. Um, part of the French Resistance, surrealist guy, and the Nazis grabbed him, threw him in the camps, where he died. But actually, interesting story is the guards noticed this weird guy, and Robert Desnos was not. He embodied the spirit of Rimbaud, truly, one of the very few. Truly, he did. But he never lost his childlike wonder, the childlike wonder. Rimbaud, he gave it all up to run guns in Africa. I'm doing the opposite. I start, but now poetry, that's where I'm at. But poetry, he thought it would create love and magic. And he was so filled with it, Rimbaud, that is, that when it didn't come alive, he just gave it all up, became a mercenary. Although he did have a run with Verlaine, the other, the absinthe drinking fellow. I think Rimbaud was 16 and Verlaine was with his wife, 17, pregnant, but of course left her and their kids, went through Rimbaud. And that ended up with, Verlaine shooting Rimbaud twice. Missed the first time, second time hit him in the wrist. Catholic Church got uppity, prison, blah, 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 blah. But Robert Desnos was a pure heart. And that's right. So in the concentration camps, you would get into trucks. Some of them trucks go to the gas chambers. Some of them trucks go to work. He would just stumble up to people and just start reading their palm. And he couldn't read palms. He'd start reading their palm to people on the truck and be like, oh, my Lord, you're going to have such a long life. You're going to have so many children. You're going to meet the love of you're going to find your wife. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Just amazing. And he started doing that, and that truck would be saved from the gas chamber day after day after day. And the guards started noticing that. I have friends, poets, of course, so fools, but who truly believe that Desnos, though again, he's not a mechanic. He did this stuff automatically, but he's actually prophetic, and his words are so powerful. They believe it changed things just like he's a magician almost. I don't know about that. He ended up getting on one of those trucks uh, and ended up in the gas chamber himself. But this is a great poem called "The Voice of Robert Desnos." It's a little long, but it's worth it. Oh, it's so strong. And there's no good translations either. I apologize. He's a French boy. So, "Voice of Robert Desnos." So like a flower and a current of air, the flow of water, fleeting shadows, the smile glimpsed at midnight this excellent evening. So like every joy and every sadness, it is the midnight past lifting its naked body above belfries and poplars. I call to me those lost in the fields, old skeletons, young oaks cut down, scraps of cloth rotting on the ground, and linen drying in farm country. I call tornadoes and hurricanes, storms, typhoons, cyclones, tidal waves, earthquakes. I call the smoke of volcanoes and the smoke of cigarettes, the rings of smoke from expansive cigars. I call lovers and loved ones. I call the living and the dead. I call gravediggers. I call assassins. I call hangmans, pilots, bricklayers, architects, assassins. I call the flesh. I call the one I love. I call the one I love. I call the one I love. The jubilant to midnight unfolds its satin wings and perches on my bed. The belfries and the poplars bend to my wish. The former collapse, the latter bow down to those lost in the fields. are found in finding me. The old skeletons are revived by my voice. The young oaks cut down are covered with foliage. The scraps of cloth rotting on the ground and in the earth snap to the sound of my voice, like a flag in rebellion. The linen drying at farm country close, adorable women, whom I do not adore, who come to me, obeying my voice, adoring tornadoes revolve in my mouth. Hurricanes, if it is possible, redden my lips, storms roar at my feet. Typhoons, if it's possible, ruffle me. I get drunken kisses from the cyclones. The tidal waves come to die at my feet. The earthquakes do not shake me, but fade completely at my command. The smoke of volcanoes clothes me in its vapors, and the smoke of cigarettes perfumes me, and the rings of cigar smoke round me. Loves and love, so long hunted, find refuge in me. Lovers, listen to my voice. The living and the dead yield to me to salute me, the former coldly, the latter warmly. The gravediggers abandon the hardly dug graves and declare that I alone may command their nightly work. The assassins greet me. The hangmen invoke the revolution, invoke my voice, invoke my name. The pilots are guided by my eyes. The bricklayers are dizzied listening to me. The architects leave for the desert. The assassins bless me. Flesh trembles when I call. The one I love is not listening. The one I love does not hear. The one I love does not answer. Yeah, I feel like if this is like if there's if yeah, if Chris Rock was reading that, he'd do like a mic drop, like boom. After the grave diggers listen to me. I'm king of death, king of this, king of life, resurrecting bodies. And actually, that doesn't matter in the least because everyone listens except the one I love, not listening. Yeah. And that's kind of what insecure attachment feels like. It's like, man, you have it and it should be working. And you go, and something happens too much, too little, something happens. And all of a sudden you either lose yourself or you don't feel anything, you know? So earned secure attachment is pretty similar to secure attachment. The only difference being how you act in your childhood. But it looks like a Chagall painting. That's the best I could do. A person with earned security usually has a positive sense of their self, usually pretty comfortable sharing emotional bonds with others. They feel content around others. They usually have very few fears about unacceptance. They don't have a terror of loneliness. You know, people fearful of voiding, like they're like, on any moment I can fall into the abyss and lose my mind. It's like, oh, well, goddamn, God bless you. Hard to get through a day like that, you know. And usually they show a healthy balance between intimacy and dependence. They don't need to be glued to the person. They also don't need to be away 6 weeks, have every 10. So the three things you're going to do is you're going to create a condition of secure environment as much as you can, inside and outside. You can identify role models. This can be the ideal parent. It could just be anyone, just if you know someone in your life, you used to know someone, an old teacher. um, you're going to try to bring as much secure and positive support as you can, period. You know, um, two, you're going to work on the relationship with yourself. You're going to practice mindfulness. A lot of times I'm just talking to people and asking things. I don't make it obvious. Like, did you realize you just said that? No, I'm just asking. And this is mindfulness. They say something, we all do. And sometimes I forget what I said or I said it wrong. And if someone correct me, but oh, I thought you said that was your first dog. And I'll have to go back. I'm like, oh, you're right. I was wrong. I did have another, if you're very insecure, you never do that. Someone's like, oh, I thought, yeah. It's like, they'll just go over here. You won't even acknowledge that you made a mistake. You're not self-monitoring. And three, your relationship with others. And that includes letting go of that baggage with parts work, as well as cultivating authentic connections. So I mostly do ideal parent figure protocol, parts work, IFS, some eye movement stuff. Um, but when someone has a relationship or is ready to get into one, yeah, I used to do date coaching. So and I put some videos on that. That's really not my gig. But I don't like how people oversell therapy because like come here with no social skills and you've never like touched another human being and we'll get rid of all the activations. Well, okay, boy, something like that is gonna take a good 3 years. But then after that, geez, how do we talk to each other? I didn't know. I had to learn. That's great if you don't have to, if you're part of some community that's very integral. But boy, if not, geez, how do we? How do we? We kind of live in our own different worlds, and the idea that you can just invent a whole sexual social ethic on the fly. Good luck like that. It's gonna be a lot of car crashes. It's like inventing your own brake method. Um, so so the three major categories, though, and you can look for this in your own therapy, is the meta conditions, right? That's happening at the same time as the two other categories. But the most important is deliberate effort, intentional initiative, diligence, that type of thing. And having a surrogate attachment partner. Those are the two, when you go through the numbers, those are the two most important things. Now, I do ideal parent figure protocol. And Dan Brown, he came up with this. He said, like, the reason is because most therapists are friggin' terrible as attachment figures. I mean, really. And why wouldn't they be? And you got like 40, I don't know how many, but, people are going to have like 30, 40 patients, you know, and your life's not going to be going well. You didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but you just had a really very, very triggering session. Oh, people get divorces, job. That's going to be your secure attachment, the guy you're giving money to, the girl you give money to. Well, that's going to take a special therapist. I know a lot that are that special, but again, it's hard to find them. It's hard that they're consistent, and most are not like that. They're really not. So Dan Brown's like, how about this? I will use ideal imaginary figures, and the therapist guides them, and they start using them as their attachment. Because it's really an attachment with your best self. That's what it is. These and yeah, done studies and it does work. The Mediconde, that can also be about psychoeducation, helping people overcome those roadblocks. The second is the intrapsychic change, and that's redefining your identity. That's really about deciding who you want to be, you know. Then reframing your doubts as wrong. Like, I have these doubts. Oh, okay, that's fine. You can still have a million doubts and do it. It's like, no, no, no. If I have doubts, that means I can't do it. I have to be certain. I have to know what the best choice. Here's something everyone gets stuck in. A lot of times there's no best choice. You do not have all the information you need to really be able to distinguish two or three choices. It's like, well, with what I know, yeah, these two or three. There's no best choice. There's no best choice. Then that piece about relinquishing the victim mentality, that's about embracing accountability and taking responsibility, you know. So most of the time when someone goes wrong, it's almost impossible. It's like 100% their fault, 100% your fault. But boy, with attachment problems, you hear that, no matter what, even the other person clearly was wrong. No, it's really my fault. Or the opposite, like, well, no, my mother did this. Therefore, I use a needle every day. It's like, well, your mother, I don't know, maybe she made you, I don't know. Let's say she did make you wear that. You're responsible to stop, being one. Um, and the making interpersonal changes, that is piece of the past. Small risks, that includes joining a community. Like, I'm very holistic, and a lot of people don't like it because they hear me talking about dating over here. And it's like, that's not really that serious. And indeed, it's not. It's not what I primarily do, but that's like 5%. That's like a piece, it's there. And I really believe because different people are different places. Some people are married, they come see me. Some people are virgins at 40. This is about taking small risks, sharing experiences, including with your therapist, opening up if it's safe. Um, and that's it. Those are the three big ones. A good paper on this, by the way, is by Dansby Offwat. How can I become more secure? Around the theory of earning secure attachment. So the research does say, like in general, like, anything can happen, but in general, you cannot achieve uh, earned security unless you have a couple things. Basically, for one, emotional support. That's why I say is the secure attachment figure. Uh, so the point of this and why you need it is because the insecurity needs you to revise a past belief. A lot of us have a past belief. I cannot depend on anyone. Sound familiar? And probably the reason you think is because you couldn't depend on anyone. Does doesn't mean you're wrong, you know. But that was back then. And when you're more secure and you're choosing wisely, you don't have to rely on others for emotional support or validation. That's not why you choose your friends or your lovers, you know. And you want to see that change. Number two is to make sense of the past experiences, you know, to move on from the past. You need to recognize their influence today. And people have gotten angry. I mean, really, you know, someone said, my boss said X, Y, Z. My wife said, does that remind you of anything in your childhood? And they're like, that has nothing to do with my childhood. How dare you? You know, it's like, oh, I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe, no. I don't know. And it might not, by the way. But I'm asking, you know, I'm just wondering, you know. And people think, why would I waste time on that? You're making connections in the past, who you are, who you want to be, you know. Those three have to be clear. If you're attachment, you probably don't know. If you're anxious, you lose yourself in the other person, you know. You have all these values, but as soon as they clash, okay, I get kicked out the window. And avoid it. You're terrified of your own needs, and you know they are. And because no one will ever provide them, why hold them and be aware of these things? That'll just be painful. Yeah, you're right. You know. The third thing is altering your self perceptions again. Have a positive sense of self worth. You have to love yourself. What I'm talking about is letting go of the victim mentality when necessary. You know. Then fourthly, deliberate changes in your thought patterns and behaviors. Really easy to slip back, okay? But if you're conscious, you'll see it, you know? And what happens? Well, then you usually it comes in the form of relaxing, you know, doing some self-regulation, breathing. Okay, let me just, or enforcing a boundary. Like, no, I'm sorry. When you say X, I feel Y. You know, first, what's up with that? And they're telling them to stop. So I know what's up with that, non-defensively. Then they tell you, and they say, okay, because it does make me feel that way. If that happens again, but you know, I told you that made me feel that way. What's up with that? And if that's your boundary, no, that you know, thanks for telling me, and we can discuss these things anytime. But I wouldn't, you know, but that's a huge turn off. I mean, that just doesn't make me feel good. So I'm gonna have to. So one of my values, you know, it's just not gonna work unless we can cut that out. You know, like if girls are trying to like ask you, you know, where you really live or something like that. Um, uh, so the meta conditions for positive attachment change, shift stubbornness to resolve. You know, that needs to happen. People are stubborn for a very good reason. And that has to change from now I'm resolved. Like I'm resolved to hold on to this. That has to change. Like I'm just resolved to let go of it. You know, this is about orientation. And how will you know if this is happening? If you can overcome setbacks, because setbacks happen with everything. And there are barriers. Can you recognize those? You know, change is not a linear process. Forget about that. They don't happen that way. So, you know, with ideal parent figure protocol, we do the idea and then we start doing activations. That means, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm angry. Oh, get in touch with that anger. How old does that feeling feel? Or does your mind give you a memory? I know you're angry at your boss last night, but what's happening? Well, you know, if you followed that feeling back, oh, I'm 8 years old and my father's yelling at me. Oh, okay, you know, let's go back there. But I tell you, a lot of people won't do it. You know, like let's follow memory back. Like, okay, this is from almost 3 weeks ago. and they're not ready to go back there, you know. And even setting intentions, like, okay, let's get intention. What do you really want? What do you really want? And then people get very frustrated, very frustrated. They'll even leave, you know. So, as I was saying, the first thing though is being intentional about attachment focus change. You know, that's the you have to realize you have to be deliberate in your efforts. Yeah, like you just have to. The truth is, it can be difficult if you have a fun therapist. Maybe not so much, but it can be difficult, and you do have to be very deliberate and intentional. You have to be like, oh, there are going to be setbacks. They're going to, period. That means you're getting better. That you recognize them and are actually being set back because before you weren't there, and that's going to happen. You have to be like, oh, okay, that's part of it. And keep going. Um, uh, this is about resilience. This is what they call resilience. Keep going. You know. Um, Also having some kind of surrogate attachment figure. This is just a way you can practice relating. Mentors, you get a mentor, you know, a community, you know, something like that. Um, most people have to observe what it's about before they can successfully adopt it. They need to observe people who's living securely. That's one of the reasons it's important. I mean, you really get that from a therapist or a coach. I mean, you talk to this guy for like an hour. Believe me, all my friends are therapists and psychologists. They're the most screwed up people on the planet. They do the work very well, you know, but themselves, you know, some of them don't have. I think that's a bad idea. I think every therapist and every coach should have their own therapist myself. Some don't. Um, but surrogate kind of attachment figures, they could be anyone. Believe it or not, a lot of people say use God, you know, use the saints, use the bodhisattvas, you know. But whoever it is, that's going to stand the gap between you and your primary. Your primary caregivers probably gave you a bunch of stuff, a lot of it good, maybe a lot of it good, maybe not so much, but something. And they're going to kind of fill in the gap with the other developmental needs. You know, a lot of spiritual faith communities. That's where you can find a lot of the stuff. Um, uh, Anything that increases that security, you know. Um, the making intrapsychic changes is really about redefining your identity and realizing your own inner worth, you know. Um, you learn to embrace your value. And when you do that, you actually treat others better. So a lot of people are like, yeah, for me, forget it. Well, no, you acknowledging your self-worth is actually the best thing for your husband and wife and father and child and best friend and poor guy and cashier who's like dead-eyed and has been working 12 hours. You actually realizing your self-worth is the best for the world. That's the truth. So a lot of times we have so much self-hatred. We can't start there. Fine, fine. Don't do it for you at first. Do it for others. And we'll work towards that, you know. Again, that does require you to relinquish a victim mentality, you know, taking accountability, you know. Um, you have to be able to look at yourself first. I mean, really look at yourself and say, this is not who I want to be. I know a lot of guys that spend years without looking in a mirror. Someone gave me that advice once. You gotta have a bad situation that I was in. I said, hey, brother, any advice? And he goes, take all the mirrors down from your house. I was like, what does that mean? You know, well, I learned, you know. Um, One of the practices I had in a rehab I worked at, substance abuse, you know, you get like a little mirror and you just swing it around, just have people look in the mirror and say, hey, I love you. Oh, pass it on. Okay, these guys, like where I worked anyway, is almost all, everyone's out of prison before they were to go into society. Some of these guys that killed people and whatnot, you know, and you should see them struggling to say I love you. You know, these big guys, like 6'4", and can wrap me in a pretzel. And he's just staring at it, you know. I and they couldn't even say it to me in the most sarcastic way. I love you. You know, they're almost ready to spit at the mirror, you know. There's the big ballers, you know. Well, the first I would say, you don't gotta get there, but just this is not who I want to be. Get in touch with that survivor because you are a survivor. That's a fact. We start making peace with their past, stop seeking approval from our folks, just stop that. You want to just take a look at them through a different lens. You want to start making connections with people that have shared interests, shared values. That's where you're going to find it like a surrogate type, if it's not therapist. Um, the family of origin work I talked about, that's really parts work. And that's where you can get all those things. You can revisit your family of origin, kind of see them through new lenses, get the emotional connection. The last part is reaching outward. There has to be momentum if you're moving towards security, and the consciousness sees that. So, yeah, I do parts work going up. But I tell you, after, I don't know, 10 months, they're doing parts work, an ideal parent figure. Ooh, a lot of times they meet somebody. Or if they're in a marriage and now they start kind of have a little more security and yeah, now they remember their wife or husband, and they want so then now that's sort of like relation-y stuff comes in. Um, and that's a learned skill. You have to learn how to reach out safely. People like go on the first date and they're like, oh, let me tell you my three biggest fears and my social security number. And also that one time that blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my Lord, like, no, that is not a safe way to do it. That's not, if you've been kind of estranged from your lover and you start on this, like, no, do not let go. Like, I just want to let you know for the last 10 years, I've been in existential hell and I've loathed every touch you gave me, but I'm doing better. That's the good news. There's ways to go about it. So it's a bit of a roadmap. But anyway, if you want to see where you are, talking about internal changes and external. In the attachment journey, some things you can ask yourself. I mean, do you have a positive view of yourself? Do you have a positive view of others? Yeah, that's another thing, dismissive, avoidant, just disdains. Everyone looks down on them. Like, it's a shame not everyone's as smart as me. I mean, if only the world, you find it easy to get close to others. Are you comfortable depending on people? Oof, but I know this is tough in this day and age. Do you worry about being alone? Do you worry about not being accepted? And are you comfortable with distance? Or does that flip you out? No, no. You know, do you believe that you're worthy? I mean, you are. That doesn't intrinsic value. I simply perceive. Are you? Do you feel that you're valuable and worthy? Do you feel that others are trustworthy? Trustworthy. Like, can you have this balance of intimacy and independence? And if you ask yourself that, you can kind of see where you are. So a lot of times I was like, okay, I think I know what you want. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 is this, it's hard to visualize now sometimes, but you can imagine the perfect you living the perfect life. So scale 1 to 10, whatever that is. Let's say 4. Okay. What would it look like if it's a 5? What would you see yourself doing? People hate this and they think it's such a waste. Without an intention, the unconscious, it takes a lot longer. And honestly, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 sessions. And they're like, we haven't even done anything. And I'm just trying to get a image for the unconscious. Just like, well, what do you want? What do you want? Also tell them about their past, things what they don't want. What do you want? Oh, things. Then they'll get, all these little serpentine ways. So sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes like, okay, just go to the experiential stuff and we'll slowly piece something together. This is a meditation though. And you can evoke, if you want, any power of the universe, the power of God, anything, just kind of get in the spiritual mindset. It's not very long, this meditation, but it does help, it does seem to be like fairly positive, you know, just a person of peace and cooperative relationships. So I would just invite you to get into the meditative posture with your back straight but loose, shoulders back and down. and feet firmly planted on the ground. And now we're going to begin with 3 deep breaths. And you can take a super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Good. Now another super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Good, good. And now just one more super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Now that we're a little more relaxed, a little more at ease, you can just focus on your breathing as it goes in and out. You can just notice how your breathing is out, connecting with the healing of the present moment. Yeah. And now you can just find a spot in your body that feels a little tense. Can you find it? Scanning top to bottom. Yeah. And when you found that spot, you can just breathe in that rich oxygen. When you breathe out, you can just breathe out all that tension. Yes. Yes. And you can breathe back in and just exhale that tension. Yeah. Yes. And you just notice all that tension leaving your body as you breathe in the realization that the universe, God, fate, or whatever you believe in is there for you. And this is a yes to life. And this yes to life comes in the waves, but all is well. And you are safe. And you're so safe that you imagine that you're in your favorite place right now. And it could be real or imaginary, outside or inside. You just imagine being in this place and you allow all the details to become more and more clear. It's outside, perhaps there are birds chirping, the sun on your skin, or wherever you are. You can just hear all the sounds and notice all the details that allows you to just see the beauty of this place, and you hear the sounds of this place and you rest further and relax deeper, knowing that it can't be a coincidence that you're right here and you're here to hear a story that you already know, but somehow forgot. Feel free to drift off in your mind, knowing that your unconscious will do all the listening as the sun rises and sets down. The animals instinctively know what to do. This world is full of wisdom, and love comes in different forms. Animals teach their kids to become independent by abandoning them so they can become strong, self sufficient, and finally relax with adversity. And this world is full of stories. One of the stories is about a diamond that was unseen by a man. Yeah, it was covered with dust and hidden away. Only a man of perception could recognize its value. One day, one man picked this diamond up, but saw nothing and cast it away. Soon came another man who saw the stone was different and recognized its value. And the diamond felt really, well, appreciated and got released from the spell and took a human form. But it's a different story for a different time. And now, as you're relaxing more and more, and you imagine yourself 10 years from now, and the future you looks at you with so much kindness, so much love, and the future you has a message for you. And this future you tells you that everything is all right, tells you that you overcame, tells you that you overcame fears. Fears that are bothering you today, you overcame, and you overcame the fears that are bothering you today. And you are living a life of dreams. And you go ahead and spend as much time as you need with the future you. Go ahead. Go ahead and spend time. And when you're ready, future you is making a promise that it will come back to you with a reassurance anytime you need love or someone to talk to or just a smile. And now there's another person for you to imagine yourself as a small child. Yes. And you imagine yourself as a small child and you look at the clothes that you have on, what hairstyle. Maybe you remember a particular situation. If a child is frightened or sad, it's okay though. It's okay to approach slowly. And now tell this child, I know you don't trust me yet. Go ahead. I know you don't trust me yet. That's all right. I'm here and I'm not going to leave you anything you feel is okay. And you just say, I know you don't trust me yet. That's all right. I'm here. I'm not going to leave. Anything you feel is okay. Yeah, just tell this child everything you feel is okay. And when you sense this child feels comfortable to connect with, you can go ahead and just reach out and perhaps put it on their shoulder. Yeah, how does that feel? And if there's a real yearning for connection and it's comfortable to do so, you can take this child close to your chest. And you take this child close to your chest and you say these words. You say, you are good. You say, you are enough. You are doing a great job. Yes. How does that feel? And if this inner child needs to say something, go ahead and say, if you need to say something, if you have a message, I'm going to be here just to listen. Go ahead and take a moment. Just listen patiently. Yeah. Yeah. And you can let this child know that you'll carefully listen to him or her every time this child needs you. How does this child react to that? And you just ask, is there anything else you need? Ask this inner child anything. And if it's something you can provide, take this child out of that situation, go with you into your heart. You can grow up, go to a special place, a playground. Since this is the imagination, and imagination is create new possibilities. If there's something you can do, go ahead and do that for this child now. Good, good, good. And if you haven't, you can ask permission to visit this child again, only if you really mean to. You can say when. And now you can have all that fade back, fade inside, and just notice the shiftings that are going on. And there's kind of a new harmony in your body. And you can even go ahead and focus your awareness on your heart. Notice your heart. Is there a lightness there? Softening? I don't know. You can just focus on your heart and know that you're open for relationship, and you're open for love, and you're open to whatever the waves bring you, and you're open, and your heart too is open, and you'll realize that you have all the tools inside of you to be happy, and you're already abandoned. And when you think about it, take your time, and when you think about it, you're ready. And you think about that, you're already here and safe. You can just, when you're ready to make these positive changes, you can just, when you're ready, your eyes open, and you're here, and you're ready. All righty, people. That was the little meditation. Hope you guys dug it. Any questions, just get at me at Adult Attachment Healing Help. No, it's just attachmenthealinghelp.com. Yeah, yeah. One of these days I'm going to write that down. All righty. Have a good one, people.